My name is Serena Vale. I'm 28 years old. And the night my family told me I was too poor to sit with them, they said it with the kind of confidence people have when they believe money will always protect them from consequences. It happened at my cousin Eliza's engagement dinner. Not a wedding. Not even the actual ceremony. Just the engagement dinner. But in my family, even a dinner could become a stage if there were enough wealthy people watching. The restaurant was called Marceline House, the kind of place where the napkins were folded like sculpture, the water glasses were never less than half full, and the menu had no prices because if you had to ask, you were not supposed to be there. My aunt had rented the private dining room upstairs. There were cream roses on every table, gold-rimmed plates, candles in tall glass holders, and a string quartet playing softly in the corner like this was some royal announcement instead of a woman showing off a ring in front of relatives who had been fighting over money for years. I arrived 7 minutes late because the bus had taken longer than usual. That was mistake number 1. My second mistake was wearing the best dress I owned, a simple black dress I had bought on sale 2 years earlier, and thinking that clean, ironed, and modest would be enough. It was not. The moment I stepped into the private dining room, I felt the room notice me. Not welcome me. Notice me. There's a difference. My mother saw me first. Her smile held for half a second before it tightened. My older brother, Marcus, looked me up and down, then leaned toward his wife and whispered something that made her hide a smile behind her glass. My Aunt Patricia, Eliza's mother, was speaking to a man in a navy suit near the head table. When she saw me, her expression didn't change, but her eyes did. They became sharp, calculating, like she was trying to decide where to put a problem before the problem embarrassed her. "Rena," my mother said, walking over quickly, "you made it." The words sounded polite. Her hand on my elbow did not. She guided me away from the center of the room before I could greet anyone. "I told you the dinner started at 7, she whispered. "It's 7:07. That's late." The bus, she closed her eyes like I had cursed in church. "Please don't mention the bus here." I looked at her. Something in my chest sank, even though I should have been used to it by then. "Right," I said. "Sorry, I forgot public transportation was a family scandal." Her jaw tightened. "Not tonight, Serena." That was what she always said whenever my dignity became inconvenient. "Not tonight. Not here. Don't make a scene. Don't be difficult. Don't embarrass us." The funny thing was that I had spent most of my life trying not to embarrass them, and they had spent most of my life being embarrassed anyway. My family wasn't old money. They just wanted people to think they were. My grandfather had built a small logistics business that did well enough to give his children an education, a comfortable upbringing, and a hunger for appearing richer than they were. After he died, my uncle expanded the business recklessly. My aunt married into a wealthier circle. My mother became addicted to social positioning, and my brother learned that a good suit could make people trust a man before he earned it. I, unfortunately, had inherited the wrong kind of pride. The quiet kind. The kind that made me refuse money with strings attached. The kind that made me move into a small apartment, take an accounting job at a debt recovery firm, and build my life slowly instead of pretending I had already arrived. To them, that made me poor, not struggling, not independent, poor. And in my family, poor was not a financial condition. It was a moral failure. My mother glanced toward the seating chart near the entrance, then back at me. "We had to adjust the tables." I already knew where this was going. "Okay. You'll be seated near the back of the room," her voice lowered. "The staff table is not being used tonight, so they added a small side table near the service doors. It's still inside the room." For a second, I thought I had misheard her. "The service doors. Serena, please." I looked across the room. There were 3 long tables arranged beautifully under chandeliers, name cards in gold script, champagne flutes. Little boxes of imported chocolates at every place setting. Then near the corner by the service doors, beside a column that partially blocked the view of the head table, there was a small round table with no flowers, no candle, and no gold name cards. Just one plain white place card. Mine. I turned back to my mother. "You put me at a side table alone," she inhaled sharply. "It wasn't my decision." "Whose was it?" She did not answer. She did not have to. Aunt Patricia, Eliza, Marcus. Maybe all of them. A committee of people deciding how far away I needed to be from the appearance they were selling. My mother touched my arm again. "It's just dinner, don't make it into something." "It already is something." "Serena." There it was, the warning tone, the one that said my pain would become my fault if I named it too clearly. I looked at the table in the corner again. Then at the family table, where my brother sat beside his wife, laughing like a man who had never worried about rent because someone always caught him before consequences hit the ground. I almost left. I should have left. But then Eliza saw me. She was glowing in a pale champagne dress, her engagement ring lifted just enough to catch light from every possible angle. She walked toward me with the smile of someone who had rehearsed kindness for an audience. "Serena," she said. "You came." I was invited. Her smile flickered. "Of course." She looked at my dress, not obviously, just enough. Then she leaned closer and lowered her voice. "I hope you don't mind the seating. We just had to be careful with the main table. There are business guests, investors, Daniel's family, people who matter for the wedding sponsorship." Wedding sponsorship. Even her marriage had a financial structure. "I'm family," I said. She gave me a small, pitying smile. "Of course you are, but you know how these events are. There's a certain image." I stared at her, and she said the line that would become the beginning of the end. "Honestly, Serena, you're too poor to sit with them tonight. It would just look awkward." There are insults that make noise when they land. That one didn't. It went quiet inside me. So quiet that for a moment, all I could hear was the quartet in the corner playing something delicate and expensive while my cousin explained why my existence did not match the table's settings. My mother whispered, "Eliza." But she did not defend me. Marcus had turned to watch by then. So had his wife. So had my Aunt Patricia, pretending not to. I looked at Eliza's perfect hair, perfect dress, perfect ring, perfect little smile. Then I looked at the side table beside the service doors, and I said, "Okay." Eliza blinked. My mother looked relieved. That was the worst part. Not that I accepted the humiliation, that she was grateful I did it quietly. I walked to the side table and sat down, alone, near the service doors. Every few minutes, a waiter passed behind me carrying plates toward the real tables. Every time the door opened, warm kitchen air brushed against the back of my neck. From my seat, I could see my family laughing beneath the chandelier, raising glasses, smiling at Daniel's parents, performing success like none of them had overdue loans, unpaid vendors, and private debt stacked underneath the flowers. Before I tell you how that dinner ended, please like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on this story. It really helps support the channel, because what my family did not know that night was simple. I wasn't sitting alone because I had no value. I was sitting alone because I was the only person in the room who knew exactly how much their polished life was worth once the debt was counted properly. And by the end of the night, everyone at that table would know it too. I grew up hearing the word class before I understood money. My mother used it constantly. "That family has class." "Don't speak like that, it lacks class." "Your Aunt Patricia married into class." "Marcus has always had natural class." Nobody ever said I had class. I had ability. I had sense. I had discipline. But class in my mother's mouth meant something softer and shinier. It meant expensive fabric, light laughter, inherited confidence, and never looking like you needed anything. I needed things. That was my first crime. I needed new school shoes when Marcus needed football fees. I needed exam prep when Eliza needed a birthday trip. I needed help with university accommodation when my mother had already promised Aunt Patricia she would contribute toward a family vacation that made us look proper. Each time, I learned to ask less. Then I learned to stop asking. By 19, I had 2 part-time jobs and a scholarship. By 21, I was paying my own rent. By 24, I had finished my accounting certification while working full-time. My family called that stubborn. I called it survival. The irony was that I understood money better than all of them. Not wealth. Money. There is a difference. Wealth is what people admire from a distance. Money is what tells the truth after the admiration leaves. Money shows habits. Money shows panic. Money shows who pays late, who borrows quietly, who performs generosity with someone else's credit, who smiles in public while dodging calls from creditors in private. I became good at reading those truths because of my job. I worked for a financial restructuring and debt acquisition firm called Calder and Rowe. We bought distressed private debt, negotiated repayment structures, reviewed collateral, managed settlement terms, and handled ugly situations before they became court cases. It was not glamorous work. Nobody at my family dinners wanted to hear about receivables, secured notes, default triggers, or creditor assignments. But my work taught me one thing very clearly. People lie most confidently when they think the paperwork is too boring for anyone else to read. My family had a lot of boring paperwork, and I had read more of it than they knew. It started with Marcus. Marcus Vale was the prince of the family, though he was 31 and still described every failure as a transition period. He had tried real estate sales, imported furniture, luxury car brokering, event management, and something he called brand partnerships, which mostly meant borrowing money to impress people who might lend him more money later. He wore good shoes. He knew restaurant owners. He tipped loudly. He called himself an entrepreneur. He also owed money to half the city, not publicly, not yet. But in my world, debt had a scent. It showed up in payment delays, awkward refinancing attempts, strange transfer patterns, inflated invoices, and emergency calls made in parking lots. 2 years before Eliza's engagement dinner, Marcus came to my apartment without warning. That alone told me he was desperate. My family rarely visited me. They said my neighborhood had no parking, though what they meant was that the building made them uncomfortable because it was clean, modest, and impossible to brag about. Marcus knocked 3 times, then walked in when I opened the door wearing sunglasses indoors. "I need your help," he said. No greeting, no apology, just need. I stepped aside. "What happened?" He sat on my couch and looked around like he was inspecting a waiting room. "I have a short-term cash issue." "With who?" He frowned. "Why do you always ask like that?" "Because money has direction." He removed his sunglasses. For the first time in years, he looked less like my arrogant older brother and more like a scared boy pretending his school report had not arrived. "I borrowed against a receivable." "From who?" "Private lender." I closed my eyes. "Marcus. It was temporary." "It always is." He snapped. "Can you lecture me after you help?" I should have refused. But back then, I still believed family emergencies were moral tests I could pass if I stayed calm enough. So I reviewed the documents. The loan was terrible. High interest, personal guarantee, cross-default language, a repayment schedule tied to a contract Marcus did not actually have signed yet. I told him he was in danger. He told me I was dramatic. Then he asked if I could just talk to them and make him sound more credible. That became the pattern. Marcus made a mess. I translated the mess into reality. He ignored reality, then blamed me for making him feel judged. My mother did the same thing in a different dress. She loved appearances the way some people love religion. A charity luncheon here, a table sponsorship there, a family donation announced at a church fundraiser before anyone checked if the money had cleared. She had spent years borrowing small amounts from relatives, delaying repayments, and covering embarrassment with emotional speeches about family unity. People forgave her because she was elegant. That was her gift. She could owe money and still make the lender feel rude for remembering. Aunt Patricia was worse. Patricia had married a man with actual money, but after he died, she burned through more of it than anyone admitted. Her lifestyle remained untouched because lifestyle was her identity. She hosted, sponsored, donated, and entertained with money stretched so thin it was practically transparent. Then there was Eliza. Eliza had inherited her mother's talent for polish and Marcus's confidence with other people's funds. She was not stupid. That was important. Stupid people are easier to forgive. Eliza knew exactly when she was using someone. She just believed that if she smiled beautifully enough, being used would feel like being included. For years, she treated me like her administrative shadow. When she launched a boutique skincare business, I cleaned up her vendor ledger after she mixed personal expenses with inventory purchases. When she organized a charity pop-up, I corrected the sponsorship receipts so donors could actually use them. When she moved into her luxury apartment, I reviewed the lease because she said legal language gave her headaches. When she needed help, I was brilliant. When she had an audience, I was pitiful. That was why the engagement dinner did not surprise me as much as it should have. It hurt, but pain and surprise are not the same thing. As I sat at that side table by the service doors, I watched the family perform. Aunt Patricia raised a toast about legacy. My mother dabbed her eyes. Marcus spoke about building a future rooted in strength. Eliza and Daniel held hands under the chandelier. Daniel came from a respected family. His father owned a chain of medical supply companies, and his mother sat on several charity boards. The kind of people my mother called proper, in a tone that made me want to leave the room. Daniel himself seemed kind, if a little passive. He looked at Eliza the way men look at beautiful women who have not yet cost them enough to become real. His parents sat near my aunt, smiling politely. They did not know they were being sold a version of our family that had been staged as carefully as the roses. I ate quietly. The food was excellent. Humiliation, unfortunately, does not ruin appetite when you are used to swallowing worse. Near the second course, Marcus came over. Not to apologize, of course not. He stood beside my side table with a glass of whiskey and the relaxed posture of a man who needed something but planned to insult me first. Comfortable, I looked up. Very, the kitchen doors add atmosphere, he smirked. You could have made more of an effort tonight. With what? He glanced at my dress. Presentation. I presented myself on time and fully clothed, that's usually enough. Don't be bitter, don't be predictable. His smile faded. He leaned closer. Listen. I might need you to look at something after dinner. I almost laughed. After being seated by the service doors. Don't be dramatic. What is it? Nothing serious. That meant serious. What is it, Marcus? He looked toward the main table, then lowered his voice. There's a bridge note connected to Patricia's wedding vendors. It's just temporary until some funds clear. I stared at him. Eliza S. wedding vendors? Keep your voice down. I sat back slowly. What did you do? He exhaled. I helped structure some payments, that's all. You mean you borrowed money? I facilitated short-term liquidity. Marcus, his jaw tightened. There's a way to talk to people without making them feel small. Yes, try it sometime. He looked genuinely angry then, but underneath it was fear. That interested me, because Marcus did not fear moral disappointment. He feared exposure. Just review the note, he said. Quietly. I glanced toward the main table where Eliza was laughing, her ring flashing. Ask your family. He frowned. What? Your family, the ones rich enough to sit together. His face hardened. Are you really going to be petty because of a seating arrangement? No, I'm going to enjoy my meal. He stared at me for another second, then walked away. That was the first crack. The second came 20 minutes later when Aunt Patricia made her speech. She stood at the head table in a silver dress, champagne glass raised, face glowing with the confidence of a woman who had mistaken debt for destiny. Eliza has always understood grace, she said, and Daniel comes from a family that recognizes excellence. This wedding will not only unite two people, but two families who share values, refinement, and responsibility. Responsibility. I nearly choked on my water. Then she continued. We are proud to host the wedding celebration at Vailcrest Hall this spring, with the support of our family network and cherished partners. My fork paused. Vailcrest Hall. That was new. Vailcrest Hall was one of the most expensive heritage venues in the region. It required large deposits, strict vendor insurance, and full balance payment weeks before the event. They did not do family-backed. They did not do promises. They did not do emotional extensions. I knew because Calder and Rowe had recently reviewed a distressed vendor financing package connected to a wedding services group that worked with Vailcrest Hall. My stomach tightened. Not from humiliation now, from recognition. Debt has patterns. And I had just heard one. Aunt Patricia kept speaking, thanking florists, designers, planners, the venue committee, and certain private partners who believe in the future we are building. Private partners. That phrase meant money hiding behind pride. By dessert, I had stopped listening to the speeches and started mentally mapping the risk. Expensive engagement dinner, luxury venue, vendor bridge note, Marcus involved, Patricia overextended, Eliza performing wealth for Daniel's family, my mother eager to keep appearances intact. It was all there. A beautiful table laid over a sinkhole. At the end of the dinner, Eliza walked past my side table with Daniel beside her. She stopped just long enough to smile. I hope you weren't uncomfortable. I looked at her. Why would I be? Her smile sharpened. Well, the seating. Oh, I said. No, I had a great view of the room. Something in my tone bothered her. What does that mean? It means congratulations. Daniel looked between us uncertain. Eliza gave a tight laugh. Thank you. Then she leaned in, voice low enough that Daniel probably could not hear. And Serena, try not to carry this into the wedding. I really don't need negative energy around me. I smiled. I don't think your problem is energy. Her eyes narrowed. Before she could answer, Aunt Patricia called her name. She left. I went home that night with a headache, sore feet, and one decision already forming in my mind. I was done helping them quietly, but I was not done watching. On Monday morning, I returned to work. Calder and Rowe occupied the 8th floor of a glass building downtown, with gray carpets, bad coffee, and conference rooms named after rivers for reasons no one remembered. My desk faced a window overlooking a parking structure. Not glamorous, not chandelier material, but it was real. I liked real things. At 10:14 a.m., my manager, Elise Grant, stopped by my desk. Serena, do you have 5 minutes? Elise was in her early 40s, sharp without being cruel, and one of the few people I knew who could say 5 minutes and mean it. I followed her into a small conference room. On the table was a file. Potential acquisition, she said. Private note portfolio, small but messy. Wedding and event vendor receivables, personal guarantees, a few cross-collateralized loans. I want your eyes on it. I opened the file. The first borrower name made my hand still. M. Vale Holdings, Marcus. The second name was Patricia Arden Events Trust, my aunt. The third was Celeste Vale Bridal Celebration Account. Eliza, I looked up slowly. Elise noticed. You know them? Yes. How closely? Family. She did not react dramatically. Good managers rarely do. Do you need to recuse? I looked back at the file. There are moments when life hands you a door and you have to decide whether opening it is justice or poison. I can review for conflict first, I said carefully, but I should not be the analyst of record if we proceed. Agreed. I spent the next hour reading, not as a daughter, not as a poor cousin, as a professional. The debt package was worse than I expected. Marcus had personally guaranteed a short-term financing note used to cover deposits for Eliza's wedding vendors. Aunt Patricia had pledged expected proceeds from a property refinancing that had not finalized. Eliza had signed a separate services contract with accelerated penalties if payments failed. My mother's name appeared on a support letter, not legally binding, but extremely embarrassing if exposed. Several vendors had already complained about delayed deposits. The debt had been sold once already at a discount. Now the current holder wanted out before litigation. My firm was considering buying the package for pennies on the dollar, restructuring repayment, and securing recoveries through negotiated settlements or legal enforcement. I sat there staring at the names. The same people who had seated me by the service doors because I was too poor to sit with them had built their elegant wedding on distressed debt now sitting in front of me like a confession. Elise returned after lunch. Well, there's value, I said, but also reputational leverage. The borrowers care more about appearances than terms. That can be useful. It can also get ugly. Can we acquire cleanly? Yes. Would your family know you're connected? No. Not unless I choose to be involved personally, and I won't through the firm. Elise studied me. There's something else. I hesitated, then said, if the firm passes, can I ask whether outside acquisition is permitted? Her brows rose. You want to buy it? Possibly. That is a very specific kind of family therapy. It's a very specific kind of boundary. She leaned back. As long as compliance clears it and you don't use confidential internal advantage improperly, you can make an independent offer if the firm declines. But be careful, Serena. Owning family debt is like holding a loaded mirror. People hate what it shows. I understood. Over the next week, Calder and Rowe passed on the portfolio. Too small, too personal, too likely to become noisy. The seller still wanted out. I contacted them through an attorney, not directly. I used savings, a small investment account, and a private financing arrangement I had built over years of living carefully, while my family mocked my cheap apartment and sale dresses. Was it risky? Yes. Was it reckless? No, I knew the numbers, I knew the collateral, I knew the psychology. Most importantly, I knew the borrowers. 3 weeks after the engagement dinner, I bought the debt. Not all of my family's debt, just the package tied to the wedding financing, vendor notes, and Marcus's personal guarantee. I did not tell them. I did not call Eliza and say, guess what? I did not text Marcus. I did not send my mother a screenshot. Revenge, if it is going to last, must not be rushed for applause. I transferred servicing to a law firm called Bell & Harrow. The assigned attorney, Mr. Julian Cross, was polite, dry, and allergic to drama. Perfect. We reviewed the documents together. He tapped the file. You understand that once notices go out, they will panic. I'm counting on them reading slowly. He gave me a look. That is not the same thing. I know. The first formal notice went to Marcus. Assignment of debt. New creditor. Payment default review. Request for updated financial disclosure. Marcus called me that night. I was making rice in my small kitchen when my phone lit up. Marcus, I let it ring. He called again, then texted. Call me, urgent. I stirred the rice. Another text. Serena, stop being childish and answer. There it was, need wrapped in contempt. I did not answer. The next day, my mother called, then Aunt Patricia, then Eliza. By Friday, Marcus left a voicemail. You need to call me. This is serious. Some shark bought the wedding note and they're threatening action. You work in this space, so don't pretend you don't know how to fix it. Some shark. I played that part twice. Then I saved the voicemail. The second notice went to Aunt Patricia. Her response was immediate and theatrical. She called my mother, who called me, who left a message with the tone of a woman trying to sound wounded before asking for labor. Serena, I know there has been some tension, but this is family. Your aunt is extremely distressed. If there is anything you can do, anything at all, now is not the time to hold grudges. Now is not the time. It never is when the people who hurt you need help. The third notice went to Eliza. She texted me within 7 minutes. Did you do something? I looked at the message and smiled without happiness. Not because she knew, because she suspected. Guilty people often feel hunted before anyone follows them. I replied, what do you mean? She answered, don't play dumb. Some legal office is asking questions about wedding payments, and Marcus says you know debt people. Debt people. I typed, I am too poor to sit with you, remember? I doubt I can help. She did not respond for 3 hours. Then that was a misunderstanding. Of course it was. Cruelty becomes misunderstanding the moment it sends an invoice. A month passed. During that month, the pressure increased. Not dramatically, legally. Payment deadlines, disclosure requests, vendor confirmations. Collateral review. Marcus tried to negotiate without revealing his full financials. Denied. Aunt Patricia tried to use social pressure. Ignored. Eliza tried to get Daniel's family to bridge the gap quietly. That created a new problem, because Daniel's father asked why the wedding had hidden financing attached in the first place. That question, I later learned, caused the first major fight between Eliza and Daniel. I did not enjoy that. Not exactly. But I also did not feel responsible for it. Truth is not sabotage just because it arrives before the flowers. The most important moment came 6 weeks before the wedding, at a family meeting I did not attend. My mother invited me. The message said, we are meeting at Patricia's house Sunday. This affects the whole family. You should come if you still care about anyone besides yourself. I replied, I have plans. My plan was laundry. It was excellent. During that meeting, Marcus apparently claimed he had a strategy. Aunt Patricia cried. Eliza accused everyone of ruining her marriage before it began. My mother suggested asking me to speak with the creditor because I had connections. Connections, not value, not expertise, connections. They still could not say respect even when they needed what respect would have protected. On Monday morning, Julian Cross called me. They want a meeting with the creditor representative. I looked out my office window. Do they know who the creditor is? No. Schedule it. Are you attending? Yes. He paused. I strongly recommend we manage this carefully. I agree. No surprises that could be interpreted as harassment. No theatrics, I said. No, he replied. Just documentation. The meeting was set for Thursday at 2 p.m. at Bell and Harrow's conference office. My family arrived in layers of panic and perfume. I saw them through the glass before they saw me. Marcus in a charcoal suit, jaw tight. Aunt Patricia in cream linen, twisting a ring on her finger. Eliza in a pale blue dress, looking furious and frightened. My mother beside her, upright and composed, which meant she had decided to be offended instead of afraid. Daniel came too. So did his father. That surprised me. Daniel looked tired. His father looked like a man attending a business meeting after discovering the business was his future in-laws. I sat in the smaller waiting room with Julian Cross. He glanced at me. Ready? No, he nodded. That is usually better than overconfident. We entered the conference room at 2:03 p.m. Conversation died immediately. My mother saw me first. Confusion crossed her face, then irritation. Serena, what are you doing here? Marcus stood. You've got to be kidding me. We don't have time for this. Eliza looked at Julian. Is she part of your office? Julian set his folder down calmly. Ms. Vale is the creditor of record. Silence, not ordinary silence. The kind that empties the air from a room. Aunt Patricia's hand went to her throat. Marcus stared at me. Eliza whispered. What? Julian continued. The debt instruments connected to M. Vale Holdings, Patricia Arden Events Trust, and associated wedding vendor financing were legally assigned to Ms. Serena Vale through a properly executed purchase agreement. My mother sat down slowly. Daniel's father looked at me with sudden, sharp interest. Marcus recovered first. You bought our debt. I looked at him. Yes. With what money? That question revealed more than he meant it to. Not how, not why. With what money? Because in his mind I was still the girl at the side table, the bus rider, the poor relation, the one who could be used but never feared. I said, mine. Eliza's face flushed. This is insane. No, Julian said, it is legal. She turned on him. I wasn't asking you. Daniel's father spoke then quietly. You probably should. That shut her up. My mother finally found her voice. Serena, if this is about the dinner, I laughed once. I wish I hadn't, but it escaped. The dinner, her cheeks reddened. We all said things under stress. Eliza said I was too poor to sit with you. Daniel looked at Eliza. She looked away. Marcus muttered, "For God's sake." I turned to him. "And you came to my service door table to ask me to review the debt you were hiding." He froze. Aunt Patricia whispered, "Marcus." Daniel's father leaned back slowly. There it was, the room shifting. Not because of emotion, because of information. I opened my folder. "I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here because you signed documents, missed obligations, concealed financing from parties who had a right to know, and then expected me to help quietly once consequences appeared." Eliza's eyes filled. "You're ruining my wedding." "No," I said. "I bought the truth underneath it." That sentence landed. Hard, Julian began the formal review. He explained the outstanding balance, the defaults, the personal guarantees, the vendor exposure, the repayment options, the settlement structure I was willing to offer. It was fair. That mattered to me. I did not double the penalties. I did not demand immediate liquidation. I did not try to destroy them. I gave them terms, real terms, documented terms. The kind of terms adults accept when they stop pretending image is collateral. Marcus objected to everything. Aunt Patricia cried through half of it. My mother kept looking at me like I had become a stranger, though really I had only stopped acting familiar. Eliza sat stiffly, silent at first. Then she snapped. "You sat there that night and planned this." I looked at her. "No, that night I sat where you put me." Her face changed. For 1 second she looked ashamed, then pride covered it. "You could have told me. You could have been kind before you needed disclosure." Daniel lowered his head. His father asked for a private copy of the debt summary. Eliza turned to him. "Why?" He looked at his future daughter-in-law with an expression so controlled it was almost frightening. "Because my family was asked to contribute to a wedding whose existing financing structure was not accurately disclosed." That was the real public collapse. Not me buying the debt, not Marcus's panic, not Aunt Patricia's tears, that sentence. Daniel's family realized they had been courted into a performance built on hidden obligations. Eliza started crying then, real tears or useful ones, I could not tell anymore. "Daniel, please." Daniel looked at her. "Did you know?" She wiped her face. "I knew there were temporary arrangements." "That is not an answer." She looked at my mother. My mother looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at the table. And for the first time in my life, the golden table had no one willing to speak. The wedding was postponed 2 days later. Officially, it was due to family circumstances. Unofficially, everyone knew something had cracked. Daniel did not immediately leave Eliza, but the engagement changed. His family demanded full financial transparency before any new wedding date. Aunt Patricia had to sell jewelry she had bragged was heirloom but had actually purchased on credit. Marcus had to sign a structured repayment agreement secured against his business assets. My mother stopped mentioning class for a while. Eliza sent me one message: "You must be happy." I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "No, I'm free." She did not answer. Freedom, by the way, does not feel like fireworks. It feels quiet, a little sad, a little empty. Like leaving a noisy room and realizing your ears are still ringing. For weeks after the meeting, I kept expecting guilt to arrive like a storm. It came in small weather instead. A memory of Eliza and me as children sharing mango slices in my grandmother's kitchen. A memory of Marcus carrying me on his back when I was 6. A memory of my mother brushing my hair before a school recital, before she learned to measure daughters by usefulness and shine. That is the cruel part about family revenge. You are not only fighting villains, you are fighting the people who once held softer versions of themselves close enough for you to love them, but love does not cancel truth, and memory does not repay debt. A month after the meeting, Daniel asked to speak to me. We met at a coffee shop downtown. He arrived without Eliza. He looked tired but polite. "I wanted to apologize," he said. "For what?" "For not noticing how they treated you." I stirred my coffee. "You were new." "That's generous." "It's accurate," he nodded. "Serena, did you buy the debt to stop the wedding?" I appreciated the directness. "No." "Then why?" I thought about it. Why had I bought it? Not for money, though the investment would likely recover well. Not for revenge, though revenge was part of the air around it. Not even to expose them, though exposure had become necessary. "I bought it because for once I wanted the power to say the terms out loud," I said. "They spent years turning my labor into family duty. This was the first time their need came with paperwork they couldn't guilt into silence." Daniel looked down. "That makes sense. Does it?" "Yes," he paused. "We're not getting married." I did not react quickly. "I'm sorry." "I am too, but not as sorry as I would have been later." That stayed with me. A bad truth early is kinder than a beautiful lie that waits until after the vows. Eliza blamed me, of course. Her friends unfollowed me, which was funny because most of them had never followed me in any meaningful sense. Aunt Patricia told relatives I had financially attacked the family. Marcus said I was a bitter accountant with a power complex. My mother said I had let poverty poison my heart. Poverty. Still that word. Even after I owned the debt. Even after I controlled the terms. Even after their polished life had to sit across from me in a lawyer's office and admit that the poor daughter understood the money better than all of them. Because to my mother, poverty was never about bank balances. It was about obedience. As long as I refused to perform wealth the way she valued it, I would always be poor to her. So I stopped trying to prove otherwise. I enforced the repayment structure. Calmly, professionally. Marcus missed the first deadline. I issued notice. He called me screaming. I hung up. He paid within 48 hours. Aunt Patricia tried to renegotiate through a family friend. Denied. She paid after selling a bracelet she once told people had belonged to our great-grandmother. It had not. Eliza eventually took responsibility for a portion of the vendor cancellation penalties. Not publicly, not humbly, but legally. That was enough. My mother asked me to lunch 3 months later. I almost declined. Then curiosity won. We met at a modest restaurant, not Marceline House. She looked uncomfortable there, which I found more satisfying than I should admit. 10 minutes she talked about neutral things, whether a cousin's pregnancy, church renovations, then she folded her hands. Serena, I think things went too far. I nodded. They did. She looked relieved, mistaking agreement for surrender. I'm glad you see that. I meant before I bought the debt. Her mouth tightened. Must you always be so hard? I looked at her. Do you know what Eliza said to me that night? She looked away. She was under pressure. She said I was too poor to sit with you. My mother sighed. It was a terrible choice of words. No, it was a clear one. Serena, no, I need you to hear this. I sat by the service doors at a family event because all of you were more worried about how I looked than how I felt. Then Marcus came to that same table asking for help with the debt funding the room that excluded me. She said nothing. I continued. You taught me something that night. You taught me that I was not family when appearances mattered, only when consequences did. For a moment, her face softened. I almost believed something human might break through. Then she said, you embarrassed us. There it was, the real wound, not that I was hurt, that people saw. I placed money on the table for my coffee and stood. I know. She looked up, surprised. That's all. Yes. You're leaving? I am. Serena, sit down. I looked at her carefully. Woman I had wanted to please for most of my life. A woman who could look at her daughter's pain and still prioritize the audience. No, I said. I don't sit where I'm not respected anymore. Then I walked out, not dramatically. No storm, no music. Just a woman leaving a table on her own terms. A year has passed since the engagement dinner. Eliza and Daniel did not reconcile. She eventually married someone else in a smaller ceremony at a less expensive venue. I was not invited. I sent no gift. That felt clean. Marcus is still paying under the agreement. He is less loud now, though I would not mistake that for humility. Some people become quieter only because noise became expensive. Aunt Patricia downsized her house and tells people she wanted less space. My mother still believes I changed. She is wrong. I did not change. I became legible. That was what frightened them. For years, they could read me only as useful, poor, sensitive, difficult, bitter. Every label made me easier to place at a side table and call it practical. Then I became the creditor, the person holding the document, the one name written where they expected shame to be, and suddenly they had to read me differently. I still work at Calder and Row. I still take the bus sometimes, not because I have to, but because I like watching the city move without pretending it belongs to anyone. I still wear the black dress. I had it tailored. It fits beautifully now. 6 months ago, I bought a small apartment with good light and terrible kitchen cabinets. I love it. Every payment is mine. Every key is mine. No one in my family helped. No one gets to use it as proof of their support. Sometimes I think about that side table near the service doors. I used to remember it as humiliation. Now I remember it as a vantage point. From there, I saw everything. The polished lies, the borrowed confidence, the unpaid elegance. The way people confuse proximity to wealth with ownership of it. Most of all, I saw myself. Not as they saw me. As I was, patient, angry, competent, done. My family said I was too poor to sit with them. Then their lawyer announced I had bought their debt. And maybe that sounds like revenge. Maybe it was. But the deeper truth is this. I did not buy their debt because I wanted a seat at their table. I bought it because I finally understood I did not need one. Some tables are not worth joining. Some rooms only look elegant because the truth has been seated near the kitchen. And sometimes, the person everyone tries to hide by the service doors is the only one who knows who really owns the bill.